Over the weekend, we were just hours away from NFL action, and the news broke that the Dallas Cowboys and quarterback Dak Prescott have agreed on another record-breaking extension that will reset the quarterback market. This happened a few years ago when Dak signed his previous deal a few years ago in 2021, and now he is going to once again be resetting the quarterback market, where he receives a massive extension, biggest in NFL history, 4 years, $240 million, an average annual value of $60 million. That is the highest mark in NFL history, and it's the highest. It's a record-breaking deal in many different ways: in total value, in average annual value, in guaranteed money, $231 million guaranteed, $1 million more guaranteed than Deshaun Watson, which was a little bit interesting, especially considering the fact that they were about to play one another. I think that was more of a statement than anything, just the extra $1 million, just to say that he was the highest in NFL history. Also got the highest signing bonus in NFL history with $80 million. So again, just checking off the boxes of all of the different historical significances of this contract relative to every other contract that has ever existed in the NFL. So he is now under contract through the 2028 season. He is going to be 35 years old in that 2028 season. So at that point, 35 years old, we could be seeing Dak Prescott retiring as a lifelong Cowboy. I mean, he is already on pace to break just about every record in the books for the Cowboys. Taking this contract away now, along with it, and knowing that they have another few years on the books with Dak Prescott, an additional 4 years on top of it, he is probably going to smash every single one of those records, which is really incredible. Obviously, Dak Prescott has, had his fair share of doubters for years now. I do think that in large part it is just for the sake of the fact that he's playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, you have a little bit of a target on your back based off of that. But Dak going from a fourth-round selection to ultimately becoming the highest paid player in NFL history, it really is quite the remarkable story for him, and sort of overcoming odds along the way. Now, obviously, that being said, his overall success is not going to be measured in how much money he makes through his career, which is obviously a lot. It's about Super Bowls for the Dallas Cowboys, and that they are yet to do. They are yet to, I believe, I could be mistaken here, but I can double check. I believe they are yet to even make it to an NFC championship game at this point. So again, the expectations are more than just regular season wins, which he has also come away with year after year, especially in the past 3 seasons. And he's even won some playoff games along the way as well. But that being said, it's, I believe, 2 playoff games throughout the entirety of his career. That's just not the measure of success for the Dallas Cowboys. So they are hoping that during these next few years, they are mortgaging a ton of their salary cap space into Dak Prescott with hopes that he is good enough to be able to elevate the remainder of the roster as well. And that is still definitely to be determined, and it is going to begin to be tested a little bit more starting this year, considering the fact that it's not just Dak getting this massive deal, it's also his number one weapon as well in CeeDee Lamb, who just signed a 4-year, $136 million deal less than 2 weeks ago. So they are going to have these 2 players eating up the majority, a very good portion of their salary cap for the next handful of years. Add to that as well that they're going to need to hand out another contract still to star linebacker Micah Parsons, that you're going to have 3 players that will probably make around half of your salary cap, if not more than that. So the Cowboys are going to need to rely on their stars in order to, and it's generally speaking a pretty well-run organization that it's not like it's solely going to come down to these three players, but you're going to have a lot weaker rosters outside of those three players in relation to what Dak Prescott has dealt with for a lot of his time in Dallas. But that's not to say that they are going to be entirely untalented. I do still think that they have done an excellent job drafting defensively. You look at the likes of Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland in that secondary have been massive additions for them. Osa Odigizua on the defensive line is another player that has been massively important for them. Across the board, they have been a pretty well drafting team for the past handful of years. And as much as, yes, Dak is now going to take up a ton of that money, as will CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, it's not like this team is going to be purely the three of those players. But that being said, they're going to have to continue to prove that they can be a well-functioning organization, because if there's any lesson in the NFL, it's not what have you done, it's what are you doing for me now. So the Cowboys are going to need to continue to prove themselves from an ownership standpoint. That being said, I do believe that this was the right deal for the Cowboys to get this done with Dak. I don't really know what the backup plan would have been for them. We saw Trey Lance clearly. Maybe there was a slight, long shot hope that Trey Lance would have been able to eventually succeed Dak if he started playing really well for them once he got familiar in the system. That clearly was not the case. That was showcased during preseason. And either way, that would have been a long shot anyways to expect him to take on the reins from Dak. And at this point, the Cowboys are going to be too competitive of a team probably to even be in the realm of drafting a quarterback within the top 10. And even if they were, that's always still such a crapshoot. And I don't feel like the Cowboys have this excellent foundation in terms of offensive pieces around the quarterback position. And Mike McCarthy is a good play caller, but I don't think that he's on the level of the Sean McVays or the Mike McDaniels that are able to sort of almost I wouldn't say single-handedly, but those coaches are the ones who can really elevate a situation to another level that I just don't believe Mike McCarthy is on par with them. Some of the decision making, of course, the clock management has never exactly been a strength of Mike McCarthy, but either way, still a good enough coach that they're going to continue to win games, and you shouldn't be worried about them dipping off in too significantly in terms of regular season success. I did have them missing the playoffs this year, but it's also, always hard to predict those things headed into the season. So the Cowboys, they feel like they are in position to continue contending. It sounds like the confidence around the front office is that they are still bought in the current foundation that they have, but they also got out to a nice start yesterday by blowing the doors off of the Cleveland Browns. Dak playing his first game under this contract, again, just hours later after it was announced. He was pretty good, all things considered. 19 of 32, 179 passing yards and a touchdown. He really wasn't asked to do all that much, considering by the time he touched the ball for the first time in the second half, it was already a 27-3 ball game. And, early on, I thought that maybe he was a little bit off on a couple throws, but he had the really nice pass to Brandon Cooks in the end zone for that first touchdown. The offense as a whole, I thought, looked very functional for the most part. Definitely a clear game plan to get CeeDee Lamb the ball as many times as possible. He was showing out early on there. It was in the passing game, but a little bit more designed runs for CeeDee as well. So, he is far and away the best playmaker on that Cowboys offense that you should continue to expect him to be force-fed. I'm actually kicking myself because just last week I did an awards prediction for this upcoming season. I was back and forth between Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, and I just think that Lamb is going to get so many looks in this Cowboys offense that, he's probably a very good bet for that. But the Cowboys, again, they looked good overall, very convincing. A lot of optimism about their defense, which was already the case. There were maybe some questions about Mike Zimmer. He has been out of football for a couple years. He comes in as the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, and I thought he did an excellent job. All of that being said, the Browns were a mess, and they were just disjointed from the jump, and it was for a couple reasons. Now, off the bat, I had actually on Friday picked the Browns to cover the 2.5-point spread. It didn't help, I think, by any means, the fact that they were missing both of their starting offensive tackles, and against this defense and against Micah Parsons, that is a scary result. Deshaun Watson was running for his life for a lot of this game, and the fact that, there were injuries involved there, but that being said, I thought it went definitely further beyond that with the play of Deshaun Watson, and this is going to be a topic that we monitor closely throughout the course of this season. But again, Watson was a bit of a disaster in this game. 24 of 45, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I guess he used his legs a little bit to pick up 39 yards as well. He also used his legs a little bit to have bad footwork, throwing in the pocket. Even the times that he did have a pretty clean pocket, I thought he was running into pressure a little bit as well. He was sacked 6 times. And again, the offensive line missing both of their starting offensive tackles in Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin is definitely a big contributor to the fact that they looked so disjointed. But I don't think that fully excuses what we saw from Deshaun Watson, especially considering at this point, he's just been so poor for the Browns basically his entire tenure, and knowing that he has that contract attached to his name. I talked about, we don't need Watson to be 2019, 2020 Deshaun Watson anymore. I don't have any expectations for him being elite, but just for the sake of him and for the sake of Browns fans, he has to at least be a league average quarterback, and that has been a little bit of a struggle for him up to this point. So I do sort of wonder what the long-term future looks like for Deshaun Watson with the Browns. Again, a story that I don't want to harp on too much at this very moment because there's still a lot of year left. It is just week 1, and the reality is if the Browns have any excuse to hold on to Watson, they're going to, considering the fact that the alternative is just releasing him and having to take on $172 million in dead cap. That, maybe they just pull a Broncos and, like they did to Russell Wilson, just sort of bite the bullet and get it over with. But, just a horrible, horrible start to the season ahead for the Cleveland Browns. Now, again, week 1, these things, a lot of the times these results can be very deceiving, but it's just the fact that we also haven't seen any real optimism from Watson since being traded to Cleveland, and it's a messy situation there, absolutely. But to circle back here to the Cowboys, it's a nice win for them. I picked against them on Friday. I have less confidence for them this upcoming season than I have in years past. I still think they're going to be competitive and in that playoff hunt, but it was never about proving yourself against the Browns week 1. This is more so about, can you match up against the top teams in the league? And in the regular season, even in years past, they've been able to do so. But it's about playoff success in Dallas, as they've been on this extensive drought of now almost 30 years since the last time they went to the Super Bowl. That's just not good enough. So you can feel good about yourself, Cowboys fans, 100%, not trying to take away. But I'm not ready to get swept up that much in this type of a win for the Cowboys. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section if you did see something that was that much more significance that really altered your perspective on the upcoming season for Dallas. But we are going to be talking about another quarterback now that got a lucrative contract extension this offseason in Jordan Love, who him and the Packers faced off against the Eagles on Friday night in Brazil. So we'll touch a little bit on that entire experience of the international game. But more importantly, Jordan Love suffered an MCL sprain at the end of that game and is expected to miss a few weeks. So we are going to be diving into the finer details surrounding the injury for Love and talking about what the outlook appears to be for the Packers moving forward here. But first, we have to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.